the notion of an individual independent organism is a lie, right? There is no such thing, right? Like all organisms on Earth are somehow embedded in a living system with a whole bunch of other organisms that are in it, on it, or around it.
I've never met anyone like it.
He could hack anybody's phone in a matter of minutes. Who is that guy? Who can do that?
Thomas is the most interesting man in the world.
He's one of my favorite people on the planet. Inventor.
Wicked smart.
The master of cutting corners.
If you had a dead body in your trunk, who would you call?
He would get arrested immediately in a lineup.
I stood in line to get his autograph.
You know, his mouth can barely keep up to his brain.
I don't actually know what Pablos does. A hacker magician.
Man of the future. Future.
We can cut out anything.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for me, like when I was 13, maybe 14, I discovered punk rock, right?
Okay.
And it was so important for me for so many reasons. Like in part just because nothing that was happening around me made any sense, and this made sense, right? It's just
Amazing.
like it just made sense.
I know how you feel because I discovered Duran Duran at the same time.
So then you know. Then you know.
Nobody who's into punk rock thinks I know.
You've lived it.
But I had been only listening to classical music before that. So, you know, I was that kind of nerd. Duran Duran changed my life.
But
never live it down.
The thing about punk rock was that it came on albums,
Yeah.
and the albums had liner notes.
Okay.
And the liner notes had like nobody talks about this, but the liner notes for punk rock were like footnotes for like 100 years of counterculture. There were basically like 100 years of everybody who ever said fuck you to anything was somewhere in some liner notes on some crazy and one of them that caught my eye, and I was 14 when I first hit it, was about this group of artists and intellectuals in the 50s and 60s in Europe called the Situationists. And the Situationists were artists and intellectuals, and there was one guy who gets a lot of the credit, named Guy Debord, and they had a bunch of really important ideas, but the one that like hooked me was this idea of something called psychogeography. And which is basically just saying that the environment around us produces unique psychological, psychic, and emotional states. And who gets to determine that, right? Is it architects? Is it urban planners? Like who? What are the environmental conditions that produce specific psychic conditions? And so they would stage interventions in Paris. They would do things like run chains across the boulevard to just stop traffic until somebody could take the chains out, just so that people could feel like, what is it like when there's no cars for 15 minutes? Like how do you feel? Like they would run.
That was their artistic version of this. Okay.
Yeah, and of all the things that really hooked indelibly from exposure through punk rock, it was that notion of psychogeography, and the notion that who we are is like, yes, it's a function of genetics. Yes, it's a function of all the things that we were just talking about our upbringing. But it's also just like we're sitting here in Manhattan. The trees do something to me out the window that bricks wouldn't. Or the bricks do something that the trees wouldn't. And even just the smells, or the noise of people, or even hearing strangers, I grew up riding the subway, listening to everyone else's conversations. These are what make us who we are. And it was years later that I realized, like, the thing that the Situationists didn't have was software. Right? Like, that's what they were missing. And that's what, like, in a very direct line, that's what led to myself and my partner, my business partner at the time, Frank Lance, this is 20 years ago now, really being some of the early pioneers in location-based games, what we were interested in that, and we both came to it from the same place, through the Situationists, which was weird. But it was just this idea that you could add layers to human experience using phones and informatics now, which like we were like, man, the Situationists would have loved this. Like, and we basically tried to bring to life a lot of what they had dreamed about in terms of being able to understand and shift psychic states using designed experiences.
Wow. Well, let's pick that apart, but I want to ask you, do you think this psychogeography thing still resonates with you?
For sure, 100%.
Because I have been thinking about this a lot lately, because somehow only recently it started to really occur to me how radically different I am from all the people around me.
Yeah.
Everybody else knew it, but it just dawned on me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is attributable to my weird childhood growing up in Alaska.
Uh-huh.
And I think I've said for a long time, kind of flippantly, that I've had enough nature for several lifetimes. I don't need to go hiking on the weekend to feel a connection to nature. I've had enough of that. I'm trying to find cement and skyscrapers. Yeah. And so but I think that part of why that's okay is this balance through extremes. I did get what you were trying to describe. I had trees and mountains and streams and snow and ice and just all that stuff. I wasn't trying to get at it. It was forced on me. But I think it also, whatever that positive thing is people are trying to get out of meditation retreats or whatever, it's already in me. I don't feel drawn to that. There's nothing that it seems like they have or they're getting that I'm seeking.
Right.
Like I have that.
I get that.
I don't know. I'm not bragging or something.
No,
I'm
I
just
get
saying,
that.
I think whatever that is, it's not a need that I feel.
Yeah.
And whereas, I grew up deprived, like to buy a skateboard was you lick a stamp and mail in a postcard to order it and wait 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. Like that's what it was like.
Yeah.
And so I was just deprived of everything that I think you could take that a city like New York offered as a kid. I never rode a subway until I was much older. I just didn't have those things, and that's what I wanted to experience that, and I wanted to be where people were. You described these situationalists as like intellectuals and artists, and when you said that, I thought, what class of people are intellectuals and artists now? Like that's two different classes of people, as far as I can tell.
Sort of.
Is Kanye in both camps, or like who's?
There's folks who
span that.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe a few, but it doesn't seem like that's
It may be that there were never more than two,
okay,
right? Like I think
right.
which I think is real.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember when I was a teenager and I went to the library and I got all the books about the Situationists. There were all these like photos of them like in Paris, like hanging out and smoking cigarettes, and you could see like, oh, this is where this painter met and then it was like, like years and years and years and years later, I was like hanging out with like all the people that we hang out with, and I was like, I think these are those photos, right? Like I think not in a self-aggrandizing way, but I think that there are moments that produce certain groups of people, and then those groups of people change the moment, like at small scales and big scales.
Yeah.
And for me, even as a teenager, just being aware that was a thing. Like I aspired to, in a way, exactly what I have, which is like, to be in a milieu of people who are ambitious, either in deed or in mind, or both, right? Like
and maybe I don't know. For me, it was the early. I think the influences were the people trying to build computers, the early personal computer industry and those things. And I was far removed from them, so I was going to the library and reading about what's going on with them. Years behind, probably on everything, and just trying to figure out how do I get to Silicon Valley, from what was basically Mars, maybe more like Pluto, and that was and eventually got that. when you're, I mean, you're in New York City, all subcultures were available.
Yeah.
You found some weird one in Europe or something.
Yeah.
Do you think it was like partly appealing just because no one else had found that? And everybody else had found punk rock or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, to bring it back to the discussion of child rearing, I think that you and I had something that we were some of the last to have this experience, which is that we could get a hold of things and be exposed to things that were obscure.
Yeah.
That were like hard
Nothing
to get. That were hard to get to.
I know.
And that was part of their value.
Yeah.
Like the value is that I don't think anyone knows about this shit.
Yeah.
Right. And no one can ever feel that way again.
Right.
Right. And that's that was really taken from us. I feel very, very strongly.
That's an interesting thing because I think because I was always working on like fringe technologies.
Yeah.
I've always felt like I had something that nobody else knew about.
Yes.
But even that feels threatened now.
Right.
Like there's not a lot left that I know about. I mean, we still do obscure technologies, and I probably am still on some bleeding edge, but it does feel like that edge is thinner and thinner.
Yeah.
And lots of people are coming, which is in some sense a success. I'm not necessarily complaining.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to be the only guy who knows about whatever's going on. But I think there's a but that thing you describe is like for our kids, I'm like, look what I found. They don't care. They're like, I could have found that.
Right.
So there's probably something like that. I wonder how. Maybe this is a frontier for art where we basically have to go build something like geocaching or something. Start creating mysteries.
Yeah.
Again, that can't live online, or that I don't know that it somehow or is trying to escape that.
Of note, right? Like, is that I don't know if you saw this. Like, Anthropic basically bought like. Call it I don't know what the number is, but call it 1 million old rare books.
Yeah.
And then fed those into the machinery.
Yeah.
Because they exist from the world before everything had slop in it. Right. And it's like that. I think it's iron or steel. There's something that holds radiation endlessly, and so like the only place that you can get it is from like submerged wrecks. Do you know about this? Right. There's like the only place that you can get certain types of metal that are not irradiated, which you need for certain things that you probably know more about, is from like submarine wrecks. Right. Right. And it's like there's an equivalent of that in AI. Right. But there's also an equivalent of that just in general. Like what are the things?
Yeah, it becomes cannibalism. Yeah, when you're training on slop.
Like what are what are the things that can actually feel like they are authentic and can somehow be yours, right? Like and I think that is that don't have distribution and slop and monetization, on top of them. I bought for our 11-year-old daughter. I bought all the copies of the Mad magazine books from the 70s that I grew up with, and so she's like, in the car, she's like, so who's Spiro Agnew? I'm like, oh my God, that's a long story, right? Yeah. But so that's hers, right? Like because like that, but there's so few things like that.
I worry about like The Simpsons being out of date, but you've got Mad magazine.
The humor holds up. All the references are completely blown, right? But I think it's a thing that I wish for everyone on Earth, right? Is to have that feeling of like, oh, this knowledge is mine, or this experience is mine. And so for me it was this notion of psychogeography, and I chased it through technology and through games for a bunch of years, and that was a wild ride, and it was beautiful. And I think in some respects we did what we set out to do. But then like years later, I ended up at the Media Lab at MIT, and it was the first time for me that I was exposed to like real scientists.
Okay.
Like not engineers, especially like New York City engineers at that time are not like alpha engineers, right? In the scope of
financial engineers,
relatives. Social engineers, but not but and this is all a while ago, but it was the first time that it was like, okay, these are scientists, and realizing that like the ways that they saw the world and engaged with the world was really like they are not like engineers. They're much more like artists, right? Scientists are much more like artists, and I
the Media Lab.
Okay, but also, I mean, I'm married to one, and it's similar in the sense that it is often about just like sort of like going off into a dark forest, and you really like you have a notion of what you might discover or do, but you don't really have like a plan per se, right? And you're just gonna like feel around, and maybe you'll find it, and most of the time you won't, and the most interesting scientists for me personally that were there, and certainly the most audacious they were all biologists, right? And it was like that was my kind of irradiation by folks who were really thinking about biology all the time. And I got there in 2013, which was a very cool time in bio. It was like a lot was changing right then, and it's like it really took me time. It took me over a year of completely floundering at the Media Lab, like where I had absolutely no idea what I was supposed to do there. But then I realized I just need to ask the same question in a different way, which is like what is it that makes this place feel like this place, and to not think about it in terms of from a cultural perspective or a technological perspective, from a biological perspective, what makes a place feel like a place, and I started to learn a lot about microbiology and really learning like, okay, so if the gut biome determines as much about us as it does, and you know well that it has a lot to do with our moods and behaviors and outcomes, and but everything that's in our gut came from somewhere, and in many cases, it came from the immediate environment. And then the question is, what is the immediate environment from a microbial perspective? Like, and that was really where I started. Like rather than like adding technological layers, could I find the invisible biological layers that make this place? And like, is there a unique biological fingerprint to Cambridge that's different than Lagos or Tokyo or New York? Or is there a unique biological fingerprint to 46th Street that's different than 45th Street or 47th? Like what is the resolution of it? Is it stable? Like we don't know. And when I was first asking this, it was like genuinely in the very same spirit as when we were first starting to do location-based games, which is like what layers can we uncover or add that will make this place either more understandable or more magical or both, like more legible or magical or both, and so I had to figure out how to do that, and I didn't in the beginning. I really knew nothing about microbiome, and
let's just pick that apart for a second. I think I don't know. I have sort of a general sense that like even the word microbiome probably wasn't used until 10 or 15 years ago. So about that time,
right? Yeah.
And I guess the primary association people have is what's in the gut.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the most common and diverse microbiome. But we've certainly got them on our hands and faces and in the other parts of our bodies. But is there something on my computer? Is there something on my bed? Is there something on the walls? I mean, like what else is out there?
Yeah. So yes, but everything that's on your bed or your computer is basically stuff that you transferred to it.
Yeah, okay.
Right, which is, and then where did you get it?
Bed and computer don't have their own natural microbiome.
No,
but if I go outside like a tree does,
factory.
How much is on a tree that's not tree?
Right.
A little or a lot?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a tangent, but it's an important one for me, which is that the more you go into this question, the more you realize that the notion of an individual independent organism is a lie, right? There is no such thing, right? Like all organisms on Earth are somehow embedded in a living system with a whole bunch of other organisms that are in it, on it, or around it. It's like, we live 5 minutes without a gut microbiome, right? It's like we're totally dependent on it. We have no idea what it is really still broadly. And for me, what was, the question was like, okay, but that comes from our surroundings, and what is it, and how can I find it? Because then the question is like, what does it mean to be an individual in Cambridge is actually different than what it is to be an individual in Lagos at a biological level, right? I don't know how it matters, but it must matter. It has to matter. There's no way.
It's a crazy thing because we're at this point where we're at that point you just described. We know it matters. We don't know how, to what extent. We don't know how to read it and write it.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal. And you can clearly see people are heavily affected by their gut microbiome. And that's just one.
Yeah.
And we barely understand that, much less we know it's having an effect on people's moods and probably a lot more than that. Yeah. And we haven't, we have one company that's working on trying to research the microbiome, the gut microbiome. And they invented this machine they call it a gut simulator. So they can take a fecal transplant, sample, piece of shit, shove it in there, regrow your microbiome in the machine, and then they can test diets on you, drugs on you before they do it to you.
Yeah.
And then that'll feed a machine learning model where eventually in software we'll be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Test a drug on you in software, but it's actually you.
Yeah.
But there's thousands of microbes, different types of microbes in your gut.
Yeah.
Yours are different from mine.
Yeah.
And then there's all these, more and more of these fringe cases of people doing their own home fecal transplants for a gut, and with sometimes extraordinary results. I know people who've had great results. Yeah. Probably it's super dangerous, and nobody should do that unless they know what they're doing. Even knowing what we're doing is a farce. So because we don't know, and so, but these guys, the reason I mention it is they've discovered a few of these superbugs. This company's called Holobiome, and they've figured out one that's outperforming SSRIs for depression.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
So it's a probiotic. You could make antidepressant yogurt out of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to think about. Our toolkit of just using drugs for everything is so limited.
Right.
And nature didn't really choose to do that. In a few cases, nature is using a molecule for a thing. Mm-hmm. But by and large, what nature is doing is not using molecules. That's right. It's creating these protein strands, and it's creating these little organisms like these microbes, which we call them probiotics, but they're just more of a given microbe that you probably need for some reason. And then, but in the long run, we got to figure out, it's all multifactorial. It's like you have a team, like a football team of wide receivers and a quarterback or two, and you got to have all these things in order for it to work.
That's right.
And so they have this relationship that we haven't even begun to pick apart.
Right.
So I think it's an exciting frontier, but just imagining what we're eventually going to find out is fucking people from Iceland or Native Americans had this extraordinary, gut microbiome that we can't even come close to, or maybe, whatever's going on in Lagos could be really useful for everybody in America who's got IBD or whatever. So there's just a bunch there. So anyway, you were thinking about it from a perspective of like, how do we just figure out what's in the environment to start with?
Because that feels like an essential step in understanding the relationship between us and all these other species, which are all around us and inside us. And what is that? Putting aside how does the transfer work, but like just what is it? What there are folks who want to study the microbiome of the gut. I wanted to study the microbiome of New York City, right? And when I first started working on that, which is 2013, 2014, it was broadly speaking a novel idea. I came into contact with a few other folks who were also at the beginning of that, and so like one of them. Actually, at MIT, just down the hall, was a woman named Mariana Matus, a brilliant grad student. And she, so I ended up using honeybees to gather microbial material that I would then sequence what the honeybees brought back to the hive. But this grad student at the time, Mariana, she was like, well, if you really want to understand the microbiome of a city, you should hit the sewers. Like that's actually, and so she built a robot that would go down into the sewers and basically, core the shit mash, and then bring it back, and then they could sequence that, and they could see what was moving through a city. And Mariana and her partner, they ended up turning that into something called BioBot, which was the first commercial wastewater surveillance, which was absolutely essential during COVID to understanding what was happening in cities. And so that was like that. There's a straight line from that point to that point. But so there was like Mariana Matus, and there was Jessica Green, who was at University of Oregon at the time, biology in the built environment, and she was this was very clever. She was using the filters in HVAC, which are like, they're filtering out all this stuff to give you clean air. Right. But from a microbiologist perspective, it's like bycatch. It's like a fishing net, right? Yeah. And so she would sequence that to see how things were moving through a hospital or what have you. And then Chris Mason here in New York at Weill Cornell, who I ended up working closely with, he did this amazing. For him, it was just like another thing that he did. For me, it still blows my mind that he did this. He, with 100 grad students, he swabbed and sequenced every stop of the New York City subway. Okay. Like, what is the microbiome of this stop versus this stop versus this stop? And unsurprisingly, but also shockingly, they are each unique microbial environments.
But is that if I did that, if I went to, like Port Authority, and swab it today and tomorrow and the next day, does it have a unique signature that persists?
There will be some microbes that will be especially prevalent, over time. Like analogous to your gut microbiome, right? Like it changes because you ate this thing, but also it's relatively stable and so on. And so and so they found things like, God, the stories that emerged, like they found high prevalence of this like very specific microbe in the West 30s in Manhattan, and then in this one neighborhood in Queens, and they were like, because it was completely off the charts, they were like, what is this even? Because by the way, half of what you find when you do this doesn't even have a name. Like, we don't even know what it is. But so they started to track this down, and it was produced in fermentation, and so like is that people because people are drunk and they're like vomit, you can imagine, and it turns out it's produced in the fermentation of cabbage, and it's the live cultures in kimchi. Oh, and wow! It is in the two neighborhoods where there's a lot of Korean Americans, right? And so that's a real thing. Like it moves from a cabbage to a human to the poles of the subway, and it is durable on the poles of the subway. Right? Like and it's like, and I was like, that's what I'm trying to get at is that there are these connections between us and this invisible world that we really don't understand at all. And for me, I was only interested in this from I don't know, broadly speaking, a cultural perspective. Like I was like, is this not magic, right? Like, is this not incredible? You know, I can put a hive anywhere in the world, and I can tell you what is within a mile and a half of the hive that's invisible. And in general, broadly speaking, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
Like nobody cared. People
That's how you know you're onto something.
And I was like, I've felt this before, and I was right. So I'm just going to chase this. And I chased it for a couple of years, and then I gave up for lots of reasons. MIT wasn't working for me, and our daughter had been born. There was a lot of reasons.
Fair enough. Life.
And life. Mostly life, and also academia was not a good fit for me, broadly speaking. To put it mildly.
I haven't tried to find out, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't make it either.
I don't recommend it to most folks, but it did give me freedom.
Okay.
And which is not to be taken lightly,
Yeah,
right? And I will always be profoundly grateful for that, for the freedom and also the knowledge